शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
I think to listen to my voice, I think you all have to settle down right now. So very good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the GCC Ecosystem Leaders Conclave, an evening that brings together inspiring leaders and change makers. So I want you all to take a moment, but before we begin, I request each one of you to please settle in as we prepare to commence this powerful gathering. To begin our evening, I would like to invite someone who has been instrumental in shaping the GCC narrative in India. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Vijay Pasupulati, CEO of GCC Express, powered by iSprout. Can we have an applause for Mr. Vijay, please? Mr. Vijay brings over 25 years of rich industry experience and was part of the early team that built the Goldman Sachs India GCC. Today, he is leading iSprout GCC Express with a sharp focus on helping global companies launch and scale their India presence with ease and impact. He is passionate about building, enabling, and supporting the GC ecosystem. Now I welcome Mr. Vijay on stage. So Mr. Vijay, the stage is all yours now.
Thank you, Reena. Good evening, friends, and thank you so much, all of you, for coming down. So that too on a Monday evening, it kind of feels good to meet like so many friends in one place. So this event, we are calling it the GCC Ecosystem Leaders Conclave. The objective is to bring the entire ecosystem together. So here today in the room, we have a representation from across the GCC ecosystem. We have representation from the government. We have representation from industry bodies. We have many GCC heads in the room. We have the entire supporting ecosystem, real estate partners, lawyers, accounting firms, and even technology specialized companies are all here, So good to see everybody over here, and hopefully we'll have a good kind of a discussion today. So the way we have organized the program today, it's going to be the next 2 hours of packed information, knowledge sharing. So this is basically, we have created this as a platform for knowledge sharing, insights, and hopefully that will lead to collaborations in the ecosystem and to build a really, really stronger ecosystem. That's really what we are looking for. So the way we have structured the next 2 hours, we have a presentation from KPMG. Karthik is going to do the presentation. That will set the tone for the rest of the conversations today. Then we'll have a couple of panel discussions. We will have a couple of launches of what we are doing. And we will have a freewheeling question-answer sessions for the leaders who are going to be on the stage over here. And we all look forward to that. So now I would like to talk a bit about Karthik Ramakrishnan. So Karthik is a partner in KPMG focused on the GCC ecosystem. He has spent the last 17 years at KPMG advising clients on GCC setups and transformations. He also co-anchors KPMG's Hyderabad GCC business and leads the GCC life sciences and healthcare sector for the firm. Karthik, welcome on board.
Thank you, Vijay, and very pleased to be here addressing all the elite leaders over here. And as I was preparing for this presentation and all the slides, I was putting them together. So just for sort of kicks, I said, let me get a good opening line from ChatGPT, right? So I put in a question into ChatGPT and it gave me, so I said, give me something funny and factual that will help me open this discussion. So it gave me a paragraph. I'm going to read it out to you, and then then the rest of the presentation is mine, not ChatGPT's. But thank you. Thanks. So ChatGPT says, once upon a spreadsheet, a group of multinationals discovered that India not only had great food and festivals, but also an army of brilliant engineers and analysts. Thus, the Global Capability Center revolution was born. What started in the early 2000s as humble back offices quickly evolved into global nerve centers doing everything from AI innovation to risk management, all before lunch. With over 1900 GCCs today, India has become the Silicon Valley of second brains, whatever that means. Bengaluru leads the charge and the chai consumption, while cities like Hyderabad and Pune aren't far behind. Think of GCCs as Marvel superheroes of the corporate world, quiet, competent, and always saving the day, just with less spandex and more Excel. So this was mildly funny at best, but people who know me will attest to the fact that my brand of humor is even worse, so I think it did a good job. But I wanted to start with one of the things that it mentioned. It said, that GCCs were sort of invented in India. I wanted to sort of start with the global spread of GCCs and then zoom in on India and then talk through some of our experiences, KPMG, having advised many clients set up their GCCs. So we've got some perspectives to share that I'd love to discuss. So if we look at the globe, there are clearly demarcated supply zones from a GCC perspective. There's the Americas, we'll start with that. There's, of course, Latin America, LATAM, Mexico City and Costa Rica. I keep joking with my clients saying, if you have any spare money, park it in Mexico City because it is what Bangalore used to be from a real estate space perspective about 15 years ago. Lots of money to be made. But Mexico City is great. It's a big hit. Costa Rica, Bogota is making great strides. They've sort of put in English into the university ecosystem for all students to study. So they're trying very hard to pick up their ecosystem. Peru, Chile. But what's also surprising, or rather interesting, is that the United States also has, in some of the southern states, they have GCCs. They call it shared services, but it's ultimately sort of converging into the same thing. Canada has some as well. And then move towards Europe. Eastern Europe is a very strong contender from a GCC perspective. Poland is one of the strongest regions there, followed by Budapest, which set up some great government policies to make it very attractive for organizations to come and set up there. There's Romania, which is trying very hard. There is, of course, the Czech Republic and everybody else, right? So roughly, both LATAM and Eastern Europe will be about 1.5 to 1.7x of India cost. So if you spend 100 rupees building a GCC here, you'd spend 170 building it there, right? A lot of organizations use them for language support, if required, or time zone support, right? Where India's time zones are quite difficult to deal with. Some organizations prefer this. Moving to Southeast Asia, Philippines is a very, very strong player in the voice segment, to the extent that some of the work that, voice work that used to happen in India has actually gone to the Philippines, and they're very, very strong at it. Their accent is more pleasing to the American ear, and so on and so forth. So Kuala Lumpur is very strong, again, about 1.5x of India costs. Philippines would be about 1.3, 1.4, right? China is a curious one. China for China is the strategy that most organizations adopt. So, which means essentially they service Chinese companies. Some of them also service Japanese companies, because there's a place called Dalian up near the coast on the eastern side. Due to its proximity to Japan, they speak a dialect of Japanese. There's some of that happening as well. And then coming to India, right? So why did we do so well? Of course, we are, doing really well from a working hard perspective. We've done all the right things as well. But what is important is also to understand that, in addition to a large talent pool, language really worked for us and cost really worked for us, right? And let's delve deeper and let's zoom into India a little bit. This is the big 6 or the top 6 cities from a GCC perspective, mostly clustered around the south, but also Delhi as a location. So the reason I've put some of these sectors alongside is that, it's not that only these sectors exist in those cities, but it is that some of these sectors tend to gravitate towards these cities. So Bombay is financial services capital. Financial services started off pretty early in the GCC game. They set up their initial centers in Bombay, then Bangalore. Pune, because of it being an automotive and manufacturing hub, a lot of organizations gravitated towards Pune. Same for Chennai, by the way. So a lot of manufacturing and automotive sits there. Hyderabad, let me come to Hyderabad later, but NCR, Gurugram, technology, financial services, technology or TMT, technology is actually spread all over, right? Bangalore, if you look at Bangalore, 1/3 of all GCCs today sit in Bangalore. That number is changing, the dynamic is changing, but 1/3 both in terms of number of GCCs as well as the employed talent. 1/3 of the employed talent also works in Bangalore. So the breadth and the depth of the talent pool in Bangalore is unmatched, even today, although some cities like Hyderabad and Pune and others are coming close. Hyderabad has been making great strides along with Pune in this whole GCC spectrum. About 2 or 3 years ago, Hyderabad and Pune used to be challenger cities. Today they are well in the midst of the GCC revolution. They're no longer challenger cities, they're well-established cities. They're no longer let me set up my second center over there for risk purposes, they're a first center. And remember that, the fangs of the erstwhile fangs of the world, the Facebook, Apple, Google, all of them set up campuses here in Hyderabad, right? So Hyderabad has a lot going for it. The government has been absolutely fantastic over here. From our vantage point, I can see that, how proactive and how business-like they've been in their dealings. And that has really paid a lot of dividends, right? So Hyderabad has about 20% of all GCCs, and that's growing really fast. So how did the whole thing start? Because this story did not start in the year 2000. It started before that. But let's start from the year 2000 for the time being. So the first few years were your mess for less, is how some of my clients put it, saying, we are going to take what exists, we're going to throw it over the fence to India. Somebody is going to do it overnight, so we're going to get it back quicker and cheaper, right? And so the first 5 years were more inception, the world learning about, how GCCs need to function, what needs to happen. And one interesting thing happened there. So some organizations said that, outsourcing my data is too sensitive, I've got too much of client information, I'm going to keep it all to myself, and I'm going to you know what, I'm going to dip into the same talent pool that the big outsourcers are dipping into. I'm going to set up my own center and I'm going to do it all by myself. These were mostly financial services organizations that did this. There's another part of the world, group of organizations that said, I'm going to outsource everything that is non-core to me, right? Whether it is finance, whether it's technology, of course, whether it's HR, anything, right? And so this was the inception phase. And then we came to the consolidation era, 2008 to 2015 roughly. Of course, we had a very interesting financial crisis in between. I'm not going to get into the details of that. But this was when the GCCs said, okay, I've started with one function, now I'm going to take on another function and more. So a lot of our advisory conversations used to be about what else can I bring here? What else can I host in my GCC? How do I expand the value that I'm adding, right? Still cost mainly. By the way, cost doesn't go away. Even in 2025, clients still say, what's the business case, by the way? So cost is always in focus, but some of the secondary focuses shifted. So consolidation done. Then we came to the 2015 to 2020. Then suddenly, remember the two poles that I spoke about, fully outsourced versus fully in-house. The industry started realizing that, look, there is great merit in the experts that the outsourcing industry brings in. And why should I do everything in-house or keep everything outsourced? I'm going to cherry pick. I'm going to use the best of both worlds. So this was roughly the period where hybrid sourcing came about, saying I'm going to cherry pick, I'm going to use a mix of outsourcing and in-house, and our advisory conversation shifted to, what should I bring in-house? Where do I draw the line? Should I bring something in-house? Should I bring the whole thing in-house? All of those things. So, the enabler ecosystem really started playing a major role in the life of the GCC, starting this phase. Of course, I'm simplifying a lot of the stuff. There is always nuances, but bear with me, right? Then came COVID. So COVID was super interesting, but 2 or 3 themes came out of COVID, right? One was digital. So digitalization got a swift kick in the pants during COVID. Everybody got digital, everybody got on the cloud because it was, the less risky thing to do. But in addition, cost and risk were 2 other themes that emerged coming out of COVID. And organizations maybe, realized that not having a GCC was more risky, or having a GCC made it less risky to survive a period of turmoil like COVID. And so while the numbers, they seem pretty flat, 10 to 12% CAGR, I forget. But I can tell you, and there are other advisors in the room as well, advisory firms who can tell you that the number of inquiries for GCCs have really gone through the roof since 2022. And a lot of that you can see in terms of the number of GCCs that got established. Just in the last year, about 70 of them got established and registered with NASSCOM. Unofficially, I believe there would be maybe 30 more, right? But there's a lot going on in this space, and the enabler system, as we will see, is going to play a super critical role in helping them set up really quickly and inexpensively, right? Cut to today. Today, GCCs have jumped across the maturity curve. There's more conversations about they don't want to start from the beginning. Like, tell us what we can learn from other people's journeys. How can we quickly set up? How can we quickly start adding value? And so again, from an ecosystem perspective, it is the time to market that really is of essence today. The numbers have shrunk. No longer do we make business cases that are 1,500 people. It's more about 150 people, 200 people. How can we get started, and how can we operationalize in 3 months, right? That is the challenge in front of us as an ecosystem. But there's a lot of centers of excellence being set up. There's a lot of emphasis on innovation. Of course, not a single day goes by without a client asking me about Gen AI and how it can add value. So there's a lot of that going on as well. And by estimate, so today we are at 1,900, 1,800 GCCs. By some estimates, it's going to grow to 2,400 GCCs by the year 2030. And from 64 odd billion today, we are going to be 100 billion or 120 billion in size, depending on who you ask, as an industry. So lots of space to grow. We are seeing no let up in the speed of growth, and it's only going to increase, and the opportunity is immense in front of all of us. I'll get into some of these trends. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they have obvious bearing into the enabler ecosystem, right? So the GCCs, like I said, have evolved into value-adding centers, into business solution centers. It's not about cost anymore. It's more about the amount of value that you're adding to the organization, taking on more complex stuff, bringing in senior leadership into the GCCs out here. And so, setting up centers of excellence. The talent needs are no longer about getting somebody plugged into some process where you can just read the SOP and execute it. The talent needs are getting very, very sharp and specific, right? That is also borne out by the other two boxes on top, right? Whether it's digital, whether it's AI, whether it's leveraging the partner ecosystem. In terms of innovation, there's a lot of emphasis on how can I partner with some startups and get the latest and greatest in terms of the thought process into a given problem. So we've seen clients throw problem statements at the startup ecosystem and get solutions back. And so that collaboration is huge. Smart sourcing in terms of cherry picking, we already spoke about that. Redefining work placement, as many of you will attest. Getting people to come to office more than 3 days a week is proving pretty much impossible. And so that has dramatically altered the way organizations are thinking about real estate strategies. And suddenly, you're doing more with less, and that is having an impact on how you plan your real estate, and again, enabler infrastructure. And building the workforce of the future. Now, nobody knows how the future is going to pan out. At the end of this, I'm going to actually leave behind a video where there's an interesting point of view. But nevertheless, upskilling programs, AI, what do we do? Is AI going to take and code everything that we are doing today, or are we going to have a role going forward? All of those questions are very much yet to be answered. They'll be answered in the fullness of time. But learning and upskilling, building the workforce of the future, nevertheless, remains a very specific need in the GCC ecosystem. You can see there's a lot of talent themes going on out here. Plus there's infrastructure, plus there is, other ecosystem considerations. In terms of other trends, so while the Fortune 1000, the big boys have come in, they've set up GCCs, the traditional way of setting up a GCC has been about, you go in sequence, you get a facility, appoint an architect, build it out for 4 months, and then go live maybe 8 to 12 months after you started, after your business case has sort of come through. Now, there's a lot of mid-market segment organizations, which is Fortune 2000, Fortune 1001 till 2000 and beyond, which are smaller organizations. They have the same problem as the big boys, but may not have the appetite to spend a couple of $1 million to set up a GCC, and definitely don't have the patience to wait a year before they start off. In fact, I was speaking to a GCC leader just last week, and he said, the way we started was they literally, they made the business case 3 months ago, they hired me, and on day one, pretty much day one, we got started, we went live. So 3 to 6 months is the zone of going live that we are seeing. The sizes are shrinking. Mid-market means, there's all kinds of creative solutions out there that are also asset light. The demand for plug-and-play systems such as the ones that iSprout offers is very, very high today, right? I was talking to someone at WeWork the other day. Half of their tenants were GCCs, just like iSprout, I'm sure. So there is that, go live, then figure out your permanent facility. Doesn't matter if you have 20 people or 200, we need to get started quickly and add value, right? And then, advanced capabilities like we spoke. So these are three major shifts that we are seeing, and a lot of that is going to continue as, after the mid-market, there'll be another wave of, even smaller organizations that are looking to set up. The need of the hour is going to be creativity in terms of setting up, in terms of enabling, and we as a partner ecosystem need to be agile enough to cater to those. So from a future perspective, just to round up, we've got smarter sourcing, we've got pressures around reduced timelines, increased quality, reduced cost, all at the same time. We've got sharpness of talent. We've got things like ESG, which are coming up, which until recently nobody knew what it really was or what it meant. But we are seeing a surge in the GCCs taking on ESG mandates and running it for the organization. And as it becomes more and more of a boardroom conversation, ESG is going to be maybe a trend that the GCC ecosystem looks at. And that ESG question will be addressed through various things, including facilities, infrastructure, people, you name it, right? So enabler ecosystems are super critical already. They're going to become even more agile and critical going forward. The government needs to do more of what it's doing today and maybe draft the right policies in keeping with the trends that are happening in the marketplace. There's a need for better infrastructure in our cities, in our buildings, in everything really in this country for us to cater to these GCCs even more effectively. Otherwise, a Poland or a Mexico City or, they're all waiting in the wings to just take stuff on if you're not careful, right? That is something that, we cannot rest on our laurels yet, not ever maybe. There's also from a talent perspective, I think we need to look more, and already efforts are being made. We need to look more into our tier 2, tier 3 city pipelines. There's a lot of maturity still that needs to happen in those cities, but we are making steps towards it. We need to make sure that there is more of it so that we are decongesting our cities, making them more livable, and also spreading the joy around, right? The report on Hyderabad, the reason it was made in conjunction with 𝐼𝐶𝐬. It's a great report. Of course, I'm going to say it because I had a role to play in it. But it's a great download. It's great for someone to read about why any city, this is about Hyderabad, but why any city is a good consideration for setting up a GCC or an IT or an ITES business. It's a good read. This was something that it was a small piece of work that 𝐼𝐶𝐬 and us and my friends at CBRE and Aon, all of us got together and sort of helped create this report. Do download it, give it a read, and all the best. We are at an exciting juncture with AI coming in as a major inflection point. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot for all of us to think about and chew on. And I think the panels that are coming up will talk about some of the policy-related questions and some of the GCC leaders coming onto stage and speaking about their experiences and their journey. Promises to be a very exciting set of panels and discussions, and I very much look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karthik, for that insightful presentation and for setting the perfect context for the evening. Thank you so much. We now move into our first panel discussion, GCCs Powering India's Growth. To lead this, I'm happy to welcome a visionary leader who has been instrumental in shaping iSprout's journey. Mr. Srini Tirdala, co-founder and chief strategy officer at iSprout. With over 15 years of experience in investment banking technology, he has worked with prominent institutions such as Citibank, ADP, and Bank of America, with entrepreneur ventures spanning technology, food, education, and real estate sectors over the past decade. Mr. Srini's insights are always compelling and deeply strategic, and I would like to welcome Mr. Srini on stage. Mr. Srini, the stage is all yours. Thank you.
I don't know all about that, but we achieved something today evening. Monday evening, all top leaders from GCC ecosystem, our meeting started exactly at 7 o'clock, the event, which is very rare. It's Indian Standard Time, not Hyderabad Standard Time. Give a big applause to everybody. Thank you. India, we are at a pivotal moment where there is a transformation is happening. When I joined City Corp in 2002, it was called Captive, Cost Center. But it took almost 20 years to shed the tag. We are still, not fully got rid of that cost center tag, but we are moving towards innovative hubs, and we are becoming a nerve center of most of the tech giants. While we are excited about the opportunity, we also need to approach this with little care and responsibility. And who else can, tell us how to be careful and be responsible? The two legends here who really dictated the roadmap of IT revolution for the last 30 to 50 years, and they're still influencing the future. Let me welcome Chris Gopalakrishnan sir. Padma Bhushan Senapati Chris Gopalakrishnan sir, co-founder of Infosys and visionary in deep tech and innovations. He is currently the chairman for Council of the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, chairman Board of Governors, Indian Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore, among many more positions he holds. He stands out for his philanthropic funding of 750 crore in brain research through Pratiksha Trust, supporting institutions IISc and IIT Madras. Please, sir, please come on to the dais. It's really an honor for us to have you here. We have one more person here. When he started GCC, I didn't start my schooling yet. Okay, almost 45 years back, sir. I think 45 years back. So I was born then. Sri Shakti Sagar sir, please come on to the dais. Shakti Sagar sir started traveling with Intergraph, then Deisha, then ADP. Anybody who doesn't know these companies? There's no one, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Please come. We'll get some insights from both of them. Hello. Sir, it's really honored to have you both here. And my first job started with Shakti Sagar sir's, it was Wilco at that time, now became ADP. Thank you for that opportunity, sir. That's where I started and ended here. I hope you are proud of me.
I want to ensure my dinner, so I am very proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have a first question to you, sir. We're all excited about GCC. I know GCCs are around for last 30, 40 years, but we feel that there's a momentum here, and we saw all the big $1 billion companies coming and setting up, but we see a lot of influx of mid-level GCCs. What do you think about that? For next decade, how should we position ourselves in that journey?
So first of all, thank you for inviting me. Let me compliment Sundari, you, Srini, all the iSprout people for organizing something like this. More importantly, of course, the success of iSprout, the GCC Express. So congratulations and thank you for inviting me. Now to answer your question, see the journey over the last, so Infosys was started in 81, right? So last 44 years is of continuous evolution, continuous innovation, continuous change, and every aspect of the business has changed and the industry has continuously reinvented itself. GCCs must do the same because the requirements will change, this, the size, the scope of work. So, Karthik presented light asset light models. So, lot of changes will happen in this industry because the industry itself is very dynamic and has to change very rapidly. Right now, of course, AI is again creating significant changes. So, GCCs will have to continuously adopt. India is the default location for this. Karthik presented all other locations, but everybody has been talking about other locations from 1980 onwards. But India is the fastest growing location for IT services. No other country has scaled up to what India has scaled up to. And that's because of the population, the focus on STEM education, that's the culture that we have. So, I'm very confident in saying that India will continue to be the default location. India, as long as we innovate, look for new ways of delivering value to our customers, this will continue. But smaller and smaller companies, if they want to use these services, we have to create the model that is attractive to them. So, for example, the co-working spaces, right? It became very attractive for smaller companies to come because it's asset light. They didn't have to invest upfront. They don't have to plan upfront. And then if you start helping them with recruitment, if you start helping with managing the services, if you put that together as a package, clearly more and more small companies will come. So, as long as you create the right model to attract companies, I think GCCs will work. You have to ensure that with every new model, there are positives and there are negatives. So, for example, if you make it easy for companies to come in, it's also easy for them to exit, right? So, you need to make sure that you understand the model very well and you take care of the benefits which will attract business, but you also understand the risk. And I'm very confident that these numbers will surely be achieved. No doubt in my mind. The 100 billion plus, right? It will be achieved because, for example, right now, US is tightening the visas, right? What happens? Work in India will increase, right? That's the, for them, unintended consequences. For us, it's a benefit for us.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you are in GCC world for last 40 plus years. What is your take on it? Is it something different now, or we are just having a buzzword of GCC little too much?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for inviting me. I just want to correct you because you said 45 years in GCC. They'll think I'm an old man. So it's not 45 years. Let me clarify. I'm still a young person. It's just that I have a little bit of gray hair. So iSprout, thanks for inviting me. It's been great presentation by Karthik. I think if you look at it through the experience, I've been fortunate enough to have had the opportunity and privilege of setting up the first GCC, which is the name now, in 1987. That was the first GCC in Hyderabad, which she talked about. At that stage, it was more of, we talked about captive was the word. Then the captive word, after a lot of change and persuasion, became GIC, which was really a global in-house center. Then after transformation happened, GIC name got changed as Global International Center. Today we are at that inflection point, and I believe That name will change, and we will now be GILT, GILT, to our principles, which to me translates to being the global innovation leveraging trendsetters. Because that's the ecosystem that has been created over a period of time. So that's where I think the change will happen in all those aspects. And what Karthik presented, what Sir said, that's the journey we're going to take. And it'll become now the GICs, GCCs will all go. The capability centers will become global innovation leveraging trendsetters. And that's what the India opportunity will be.
Sir, we just named our company GCC Express. Should we change our name? Thank you, sir. Sir, while we are talking about the opportunity, are we grooming our leaders to be GCC global leaders? Is there any gap you see?
So, you see, there are always gaps in multiple dimensions, but what we have been able to do is, overcome those quicker than anybody else, because our talent is typically very young and they are trainable. They adapt very quickly. It's aspirational for them. So they change very quickly. So gaps are always there. So right now, for example, the asset light model, the ability to set up something very quickly, all of those things are requirements today. Simultaneously, you have to plan for impact of AI. Also, you have to do the knowledge transfer, getting up to speed very quickly. All of those things have to be done, because, and when you work with smaller size companies, the other challenge is they do not have the ability to manage vendors, so suppliers or outsourcing partners, because they can't afford to have a large organization to manage these things. They can't make a lot of trips to India and things like that. So you have to figure out how to bridge those gaps. But what I have seen in my years with this industry, I know actually last 10 years I don't actually work with this industry anymore, but I have seen that how people learn on the fly, and they do a much better job than people with lot more experience. So because the changes are constant, I think we have learned to adapt very fast and learn and do the job. So I'm confident about that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Shakti sir, we are still struggling to shed that cost center tag. Is it something in our minds? Do we need to change something, any factor to be changed in our mindset to come out of that tag?
Like Karthik said, that will be in the subconscious mind of our principals. But today, we shouldn't worry about that. Because at the end of it, we're not cheap coolies, which was what was earlier told in the Western world. They called us as cheap coolies. But I think over a period of time, the way we've demonstrated, we're no longer cheap coolies. We are the innovators. And that's why when I talked about the future being guilt. And that's, what guilt means, is that gold plating for the principles. And that's where I think things will change. The innovation, the ecosystem that we have created today is going to make a big difference. Over the 4 decades, we've really established the basic foundations which will help us to leapfrog. I think we are far ahead compared to any other country which is in the same mold. And we will certainly strive from that. So the cost thing will remain. But again, I don't think that like NASSCOM never compares the growth with the cost. They look at the basics and then look at what the growth is. So let's leave that alone. You can correct me, sir.
Yeah, I just want to add something here. a company will maybe look at India for cost to start with. See, when you send job, 10.5 hours away, several time zones away to a different country, you need to justify internally much more than, outsourcing locally. They don't understand. If you're new to this, they definitely do not understand. They think it's quite risky. So you need to, bring in the element of cost. But they stay because of quality. They stay because of the success. And I can tell you that, you talked about GCC 1987. Think about that. That's 40 years. And whoever has come to India, very, very, very few have left, gone back. They've got stuck to India, right? So it can't be cost anymore. In fact, it is, I think, our mindset which says that it's cost. Because I can tell you, every single one of those companies are making, everyone is making more money than an equivalent company in, let's say, US or Europe. If you look at the profit margins of Indian companies, far superior than US companies or European companies, right? Percentage, operating margin, profit after tax, every one of those parameters, Indian companies are superior. So I feel that we are charging what is appropriate to be charged. The cost advantage comes because we are a lower cost economy. Our per capita income is $2,800. US, it's about $40,000. We'll definitely be cheaper. There is no need to be apologetic about it. Take full advantage of it, right? But don't compete with cost. That's all I will tell you. That mindset has to change and say that we are charging you what is appropriate and we are making good money. Do not be apologetic about it.
So if you look at the journey itself, since I've been since 87, initially started as a cost center, then subsequently became a support center, then became a critical support center, then an incremental value addition, a full-fledged value addition. Today it's an innovation center. And so you see, and
probably own a lot of business processes here in India.
Absolutely. And you actually do a lot of innovation, improving the process. So today, I think the GCCs had on the top line as well as the bottom line of the principles. So therefore, the cost factor is no longer anywhere in the picture.
So basically, it's cheaper for US, but it's still premium for us. We are making better.
See that, forget about the cost. Yeah, right. Please eradicate it, so change your RAM.
We are banning that cost word from GCC ecosystem. Sir, after Infosys, you're working a lot with academia and policy think tanks. Is there anything to be institutionalized to fill the gap between education institutes, the GCCs, and the government, policy-wise?
See, on the policy side, I firmly believe that India must continue to promote GCCs, promote IT services, make sure that we take advantage, full advantage of the strengths that we have. The strength is, we have the talent. We know this business better than anybody else. Better than anybody else, actually. It's become a $260 billion industry, going to be $300 billion industry. So government must continue to support this industry, promote the industry. I would like to see states competing to grow this industry in those states. Second, we must continue to innovate. So one of the things I wanted to actually talk about today was, asset light model, can you take it much further? So can you actually provision a GCC in 48 hours? Can you actually go up and down? So I take 100 seats, but I need 100 seats, which is variable. So I should be able to go up and down if possible. Can I, with one infrastructure provider see all the different seats that are available across the country so that I can decide where I want to grow? Can I provision it on a project basis, true variable cost? I start a project in the US, I actually immediately think about starting in Hyderabad, 15 seats, right? So can I do that? Now, can I do that across infrastructure? So I need to see in one app, for example, all the seats that are available in the GCC format in Hyderabad. So I can pick it up from anybody I want. Right? We do that in hotels, right? I want to come to Hyderabad, I can look at 15 hotels and decide which hotel I want to take. Can you think about that in the GCC ecosystem? So there is an app to be developed here. So we have to push the envelope on innovation in anything that we do. If you do that, we cannot be, complacent. We have to be paranoid. We have to be innovating continuously. We have to look at how can we add value to our clients more and more so that they keep coming back and back and back and new customers keep coming. And lastly, when it comes to academia, academia has never figured this out. That is the reason why we are skill academia, skilling courses and things like that, and initiatives on skilling, skill academies being created, and that will also continue. But it's also the responsibility of the company, of the individual, and government again innovating on skilling also, right? So for example, 5 million people in the industry today, how can we train 5 million people to use AI? That's required. That's required for India to be competitive. That's required for these people to not get replaced by AI. Right? New jobs are going to be created. So these are things that we need to continuously think about. I told, of course, if I can mention Bangalore for a minute, let me do that. So the government was worried. So they called for a meeting. I hope media is not here and they're not going to start reporting about this. But anyway, they called for a meeting to understand what is the impact of AI. And I said, why don't you take the top 20 employers in the city and go and meet them and ask them, what is your recruitment plan for the next 3 years? So with data, we can find out what is the impact of AI rather than trying to guess these things, and then take appropriate action based on that. These changes will take some time. It won't happen overnight. So you will have time to react. So we can do these things. And the last point I want to make is, see, I like the term ecosystem. GCC Ecosystem Leaders Conclave. All of us need to work together to create an ecosystem. It's not one company. And all the players within that. And I heard that the legal companies are there, the training companies are, skilling companies are there, academic institutions are there, infrastructure providers are there, developers are there, and of course the existing GCCs, the IT services. All of us need to work together as an ecosystem to develop this ecosystem. If IT services industry is where it is today because we decided to work together. As we built our company, we also built the industry. Every one of us has a role to play in building an industry. Right? And in fact, you should think about industry first, your company after, or industry, city, your company. Right? Hyderabad has to become an ecosystem. All of us need to work together to make that happen. And then within that, we need to think about our company. So that's how I see. And if we do that, I feel that this $100 billion will be exceeded.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what's your opinion on the huge gap between educational institutes and the GCCs or any IT companies?
I think the gap is really, this is working? Yeah. I think the gap is because the academia. Did you not pay for it?
Can you hear?
Yeah, it's okay. It's working.
Yeah.
Okay. I think just because I said they're going to change the name, He said, shut his mic off. That's what. See there. Okay, you keep your name as it is. Don't change it to guilt. I think there's a big gap. Unfortunately, the academia has not really accelerated the knowledge within their faculty towards the new technology that's coming. On the other hand, the industry has not helped. What do we do as an industry? We'll go there, give a lecture for 45 minutes and come out. I think the need of the hour is, as an industry, can we depute one of our senior leaders on the new technology and take a whole semester on that? Then only can we build the gap. Otherwise, the gap will remain. Or invite the faculty across to our industry, to our organizations, and let them see what the real life situation is. What are the case studies? What are the challenges? And then be able to work together towards making that. Because unless until we upskill, upgrade our whole technology platforms along with the academia and the industry, it's going to be a challenge.
So I'm going to give you a different perspective here. The speed of change is actually very, very rapid. And the speed of change, so each of these sectors operate at different speeds. Curriculum changes in academia happens probably once a year, if at all. Typically it happens in 2-3 years. Curriculum changes. Okay, a human being can actually pick up something over time, maybe 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, etc. Look at how AI is evolving. New generation of AI is coming out every other week. Okay, new tools are happening every other week. So we have to gear up for that. So, previously in industry, the training used to happen once a year. Now it is actually probably every 2 weeks. We'll have to, probably train them on new tools and things like that. So the speed of change, in these different sectors are at different speeds. Academia changes very slowly. You have to you have to change the curriculum, you have to train the teachers will have to create their lecture notes, they have to create their PowerPoint presentations. All of those things will take time. And the academic ecosystem is based on exams. You can't change the exams because new AI tool has been introduced and things like that. New principles have been introduced. So we have to realize that in today's world, there is a responsibility on individuals, there is a responsibility on the companies to continuously train. So learn and do is become very, very rapid today. That cycle is very rapid. And it's going to be rapid because machines are evolving at a pace at which humans cannot evolve. We cannot learn at that pace. This is going to be a challenge, and this is something that we have to figure out how to make it happen. And that's one of the reasons why AI will take over. Because the speed at which it evolves, human beings cannot keep up. You saw that, right? Now the new paradigm for coding is you tell the system in natural language, you speak to the system. Create me a system which create me a website which has the following characteristics, and 5 minutes later the website is created. I speak to the system in English language and it's created. So, so you have to now adapt to that speed. You have to learn to use those techniques. And if you are not, then you are going to be behind. And where will the academic institute be in this game? Right? So they teach principles, they teach learnability, they teach teamwork, they teach commitments. So these are the soft skills that are necessary today to work in industry. The tools that you use going to change now every 48 hours or every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks, etc.
Right. So there's a bigger challenge ahead for us.
Yes and no. It's actually going to be easier also, right? Because you just use the tools.
You don't have to go to the institute. Just use the tools.
Yeah. So this is little tricky thing. Do you see GCCs as a threat to the IT services companies?
I don't think it's a threat. Initially, in the few years back, there was a, GCCs versus the IT. But I think soon one realized that's got to be a partnership model, because nobody has all the skills. You've got to really focus on what's your strengths and what somebody else's strengths. Just like a marriage. How do you make marriage successful? Each one has their own strengths, and you work together. Similarly, I think today it's more of a partnership model than anything else. Work together. So I don't see that as a conflict any longer. It was probably there 10 years back, but today it has to be worked in partnership.
See, the role played by outsourcing IT services companies is very different from GCCs. And Karthik didn't go deeper into this, but GCCs are there because it's easier to tell your company that I'm creating a branch, a subsidiary in India. These are my employees, and I'm going to move the work there. So, the issue of IP protection, the issue of security, doesn't become that big an issue. Now, what IT services company provide is the knowledge of that industry, because each of these companies, for example, in the banking industry, would have worked with 10 different banks. So you get the knowledge of how the industry works, what are the best practices, etc. So the benefits and they take complete ownership, right? So the benefits of outsourcing and the benefit of GCCs are kind of, I would say, orthogonal. The common element may be cost or access to talent, but the benefits are different. And that's why in any mature ecosystem, you will find both coexist. Now, which will grow faster will depend on, it's a snapshot in time. You will find that certain periods of time, GCCs will grow faster. For right now, for example, the GCCs are growing faster because, there is lack of visas and things like that, and companies are very quickly starting to ramp up the GCC model. Outsourcing, you'll have to work the contracts. Outsourcing is typically for larger companies, multi-year deal, all that stuff. So very different. It's very, and I believe that both will continue to grow, and they are growing. See, last 40 years data shows that GCCs were growing, IT services industry was also growing. It's not one taking from other.
So when mid-level GCCs are coming, generally that will eat away IT services thing, right? Don't you? I mean, I understand the bigger GCCs, but the mid-level GCCs.
I don't know. I don't think so, because see, for the IT services company, the global 1,000 Fortune 500 companies are their clients. I don't have data about Infosys today, but 10 years back I can tell you that if at that point Infosys probably had 1,200 clients. Okay, revenue was about $6-7 billion. 80% of the revenue would come from about 100 clients. Highly concentrated business. Highly concentrated. Every one of them had their own capability center in India also, and both were growing. So, I think what I would advise you is understand how to serve these clients, these requirements, create solutions, and be the best, right, in doing that. It cannot be that, you have a temporary advantage. That will never work. Right. You have to have permanent advantages. You have to create permanently, permanent solutions. You have to continuously innovate, and you have to make sure that your customers are happy. This is a very sticky business. And if you make sure that the customers are served well, you will continue to grow. And that's what this large IT services companies have become very good at. Repeat business is 98%. Very few industries you can say repeat business is 98%.
Yeah, thank you, sir. How can GCC leaders navigate the dual pressure of delivering global mandates while also fostering local innovation?
I've got a term for this. I call it case and creating vices. The case really is, the C stands for, in terms of creating vibrancy in the organization. The V is the vibrancy on the vice. Then the A is accelerating innovation. The A of the case, CA, and the I of vice, which is innovation. Then the S is creating a stress-free culture, which is again the C and the V. And the last one, which is both E's, is enriching experiences. To me, once you create the vice and you create a case for vices, that's how you will progress and be a successful organization, a GCC or a IT service.
Thank you, sir. Chris, sir, given your philanthropic funding in brain sciences and investments in future tech, what skills do you believe will define the next decade of GCC talent, other than AI?
So the new opportunity, I believe, is every industry will go through disruption. So for example, the design work that's required even in building construction, designing a missile, designing a chip, all of those things are already being done in India, right? Now, this is only limited, the new thing is R&D, new drug molecules and new, cure for cancer. So I feel that anything that can be done using machines, using tools, tools on the machine, can be delivered from a GCC. Manufacturing, now then it comes to manufacturing or serving customers, that is customers, right? Some of that also is now being done in the GCCs actually. So it's only left to our imagination, that's why I feel that even if we reach $100 billion or the industry becomes, let's say, $350 billion, this whole India-based service has become $350 billion, this industry is probably multi-trillion dollars. Right? Our share of this is probably 15% or something like that. I think Karthik will have an exact number on that. So we have a lot of headroom to grow. So it's left to us to figure out how do we grow, and left to us to orchestrate the ecosystem. It cannot be done by one company. One company can do it, but you will be limited in terms of the growth. If we want to maximize this, we have to think about how as an ecosystem, how as an industry, we take full benefit of this headroom for growth from, let's say, 15% to can we go to 50%. That will take this $350–400 billion to maybe $2 trillion. So how can we get there is the question. Of course, geopolitics will play a role there. All kinds of other challenges will come in, and we have to figure it out.
Just to add, I think we've got to move away from us and they to we. The moment we look at it as we, then we're talking of the victory sign. which is what will propel us to get to this 2 trillion and things like that. We've got to change that mindset, to erase that thought process, which was there 20 years back.
Thank you, sir. Sir, your advice to someone who is setting up GCC today?
I think today the opportunities and the speed, Arthik talked about it, is immense. You can really get going in 5 days. The government is helping, the infrastructure is there, and organizations like iSprout and others can really get going. I think the key is, and the biggest challenge is, understanding and respecting the cultural nuances across the board, and really putting that into a quick, on your dashboard, on your blueprint, and acting there. On the infrastructure, I think there's no real issue. You've got to be careful on what you are really trying to achieve. No shortcuts. There's nothing like shortcuts, because you don't need to take shortcuts. You need to be firm. You need to have a clear understanding. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And how are you going to achieve? What is your plan? Have you got your ducks in the row? Have you figured out all the talents? And things will work completely. Earlier, it used to take a lot of time. I'll talk about our deal in 87 when we started Intergraph. To get anything, let's say to import a computer system, would take us 6 months. And in those days, there was no STP. It was all EOU. So just imagine the struggle we used to have to just import a spool or an 8-inch floppy. We had to go to Central Excise to get a certificate from them to say there's enough space in our facilities to house that item. Today, that is all gone. There's nothing of that sort. Everything is available. So focus on what your key objectives is. What is it that you really want to do, and then get going.
Thank you, sir. Chris, sir, I'm going to put you on spot here. All the ducks are in row. All the ecosystem stakeholders are here. If we all work together, do you think we can cross Bangalore in next 5 years?
Bangalore is not standing still, no. So, see, I don't think we need to think of that way. Again, I see in a year, maybe one city will grow faster or another city, but the headroom is significant, right? If we take this industry from today, NASSCOM estimate is, I think, $280 billion or $300 billion, right? You know, if we can take it to $500 billion, $500 billion, $500 billion, or $1 trillion, there's room for everybody to grow. And that's why I still come back to creating an industry and working together to take full advantage of this. You know, in the 90s, when this industry was so small, 91, of course, the Indian economy opened up. 93, every major company in the IT industry came to India. Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, everybody came back to India. And some people said, this is the death of the IT services industry. Right? We have come a long way because we worked together to create that industry. NASSCOM was created. We worked together to influence government policy. We worked together to look at ease of doing business. Even today, as an industry body, NASSCOM is the most consulted industry body. Government, when it does anything in IT, will talk to NASSCOM first, right? So, you know, this is an example truly of everybody working together to maximize the potential. I think that's what we need to think about. Actually, you need to think about how Bangalore and Hyderabad can work together rather than saying we are going to compete. As we will compete. As companies also will compete. But, you know, is there anything that we can do so that we can both grow faster? I look at it that way. And that's why I'm working with everybody. Right? Whatever I can do to help this industry grow, I will try and do. And that's what I would like us to think about. Of course, we have to grow our company, we have to grow ourselves, but together we have to also take from 15% to 20% to 25%. So if there is a challenge in Bangalore, maybe Hyderabad should grow, or Pune should grow, or Coimbatore should grow, I don't know. Right? We should take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of us. That's how I look at it.
In fact, just to add, NASSCOM used to earlier be just the body of that. Then realizing the role that GCCs played, introduced a GCC Council, which worked together, which again, as an industry body, I think really worked as helping the GCCs, the challenges that we faced. And I think that's another clear example. When we work together, it's the five fingers getting into a fist, can face any challenge. And that's what's really helped the growth of GCCs also.
Thank you, sir. One last question to both of you. For all the stakeholders, one piece of advice, what to do and what not to do in the next decade.
I would think, become a positive thinker. A thinker, to me, is one who sees the invisible, feels the tangibles, and achieves the impossible. If you have this fundas philosophy, anything will. There's no way things will stop. We will all succeed together. Each one thinks that way, and each one works together. There's nothing to stop us.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm an optimist, and I feel that opportunity is huge for India. You have seen this many a time, right? The largest, fastest growing largest economy in the world, right? Within that, the GCC IT services, that's probably a jewel in the crown for India. And anybody who is working in this industry, I believe, is lucky. But we need to also make sure that we need to make sure that there is no tarnishing of the brand, that we don't in any way hurt the industry. Similarly, we need to make sure that the opportunity is huge. So build the company step by step, brick by brick. There is huge profitability. It's a cash cow. The services business is a cash cow. So make sure that you build the business brick by brick. That's what we did at Infosys. It may take a little bit longer, but build the business properly, and you will actually create an institution. You will create an institution. It will be a long-term institution. And as individuals also, if you are in this industry, make sure that you are continuously learning. The speed is, very, very rapid, unprecedented. This requires us to actually take care of ourselves. What I mean by this is take care of your health. Because you can't run fast without a healthy body, healthy mind. And that's what is required in this industry. The pressures are going to be huge. You will require family support. You will require all of those things. A lot of things you take for granted, then only you can run fast. So you have to make sure that you think of all these things at the individual level, at the company level, as an industry level, and as a country. If you do that, the opportunity in front of India is huge. One simple thing I'll say, and then I'll conclude. When US developed, they didn't worry about environment, they didn't worry about climate change, they burned fossil fuels like crazy. Imagine if India does that. So we are constrained to grow without using fossil fuels. We are constrained to grow in a take a difficult path. We are constrained to grow where we have 1.4 billion people to take along. So we have to think about inclusive growth. Our challenges are far greater than what a 20th century model was actually. But that's also the opportunity for us to reinvent everything and create new leadership. And that's what I believe we need to think about and work together to make indeed happen.
What an engaging panel discussion it was. And thank you to all our respected and distinguished speaker. And special thanks to Mr. Shakti Sagar sir for all the smiles, for all the humor which I will be taking back. And at this age, need to learn a lot from him. So can we have a little bit of applause for getting so much of smiles and laughter on our face? So wonderful. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. Yes, no, he is very, very young. That's why I said I'm getting so inspired by him. So thank you for all the humor, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for making our evening so special. All right, so it's time to hear the inspiring journey behind one of the India's most innovative workspaces. Who doesn't know iSprout? I'm honored to invite on stage a leader who personifies vision, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit. I'm sure by now you all know whom I'm talking about, Ms. Sundari Patibandla, co-founder and CEO of iSprout. Ms. Sundari has led the company since inception in 2017. Ms. Sundari is a chartered accountant and was practicing CA for 15 years as a partner in CA firms before co-founding iSprout with Mr. Srini Tirdala in 2017. I welcome on stage Ms. Sundari.
Thank you, Reena. A very good evening to everyone, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all for the GCC Leaders Conclave. I wanted to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Chris sir for taking his time from his busy schedule, flying down here for this event. Sir, it means a lot to us. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Shakti sir. And a special thanks to all esteemed panelists and every one of you here for taking your time and then joining us for this evening. So I don't take much time. We just wanted to share our journey so far from 2017. At iSprout, we always believe a good environment cultivate the good ideas. With this philosophy, we started with a moderated space of 12,500 square feet, and we achieved 2.4 million square feet today in 8 cities across from Hyderabad, Chennai, Pune, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Gurgaon, and Vijayawada. Thanks to everyone and then who supported us from the day one we started. And it's all like the immense support from everyone from the all industries. And then I want to convey my thanks to all the builders and then consultants and then friends who always supported us, given us references. And it's like great pleasure to have you all. And then thank you so much. At iSprout, we always ask ourselves, what is that we wanted to give it to our clients? So what elevates us to give a quality of the service and then more innovative ideas to our clients? We came out with the 3 innovative ideas like to offer to our clients. One is that iSprout signature fit outs, and which is a luxury and then premium workspaces and a blend of functionality and futuristic and a personalization workspaces, which going to be a unique for the people who wants to have a very innovative offices. So this we wanted to launch today, and then we are happy to give a sneak peek that how these iSprout signature fit-outs are going to look like. And also the second innovative service we are adding is iSprout Flyers Club for the people who always travel, and we always choose like 2-3 hours ahead to avoid the traffic, and then ended up in the airport to wait, and then where we can't take the calls or do the meetings in that 2-3 hours. So we started a premium small private launch in Hyderabad International Airport, which you can do any kind of meetings, and it's a very private launch where the people can spend their time to wait for the flights, finish their meetings or finish their calls, and also a premium some co-working spaces. And then we request everyone, whenever you are flying next time, to have a look at our launch and then use the space. And then third one, to give more, every time like we are thinking like what next, what next. So the third one is like we are launching a elite business club, which is going to be placed with the heart of the city, in high-tech city, with the high-ended, high-loaded meeting rooms, and to conduct the corporate events with the fine dinings, and then with a theater which you can use for the presentations, and also a small relaxation place. And we'll be coming back with the more updates soon in next few months. And I wanted videos of all the 3 offerings what we are going to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to iSprout Flyers Club, the premium lounge at GMR Airport, Hyderabad. Experience comfort, luxury, and exclusivity as you embark on your journey with us.
we started iSprout, our vision is to provide one-stop solution for the clients who start their business in India. So we were helping like from the feasibility study and business plan, incorporations, payroll processing, accounting, and other compliances apart from the infrastructure services. So now we are set to extend our arms to provide more in towards the recruitment and then helping them for operations under build, operate, transfer model. So we're looking forward to support again from all of you to make this GCC ecosystem successful. Thank you so much. And I'll pass on to talk more about the GCC Express, which is powered by iSprout, from CEO Vijay.
You all must be wondering what GCC Express is all about. So we have a little video first, and then I'll speak about it. So thank you. So it's for us, GCC Express is a very natural extension of what iSprout has been doing. So iSprout has like 400 plus clients, out of which more than 100 are multinational clients. All of them could be GCCs in different sizes, small and big. And while talking to all of them, a very constant need that came up is that, especially in the early days, every GCC that's setting up, especially in India, they need some help. They need help, could be from a legal side, regulatory side, talent, almost everybody said they have a need, and from a workspace side. And then on the other hand, we see GCCs kind of growing so aggressively. So we thought, why not address both the need and the opportunity over here? And that's how GCC Express was born. So that's the genesis. So the model that we are looking to follow is we want to be that one platform that helps. We are talking about the mid segment or the mid market companies that are coming in. We see that most of the bigger companies have already sorted this out. They're already in India in many cases. But the mid-market companies need help. And that's where we want to focus. So we want to offer a platform that has talent, as you see, talent solutions, that has workspace solution, that also has all kinds of operating support and advisories as required. And we want to offer it in a couple of models. If the company doesn't want to take too much of a risk and they want to kind of us to participate, we have a build, operate, transfer model by which we can take the risk and build it together. And over a certain point, when it is mature enough, the parent can take it over. The other model we are looking at is GCC as a service. So the companies that are setting up in India can only take leverage the services that they need, and we'll be more than happy to provide those. So these are two very flexible models we are starting with, and we should kind of, they should address most of the needs that we are seeing in the market now. We also realize that we need partners to be a one-stop platform, and that's why we are building a partner ecosystem. In fact, I see many partners in the room over here, and we'll be reaching out to many of you. So we are looking at a partner ecosystem which we would kind of help string together. And this would include everything that's mentioned over here, like legal firms, advisory firms, talent specialists, workspace specialists. We'll bring them all together, and on a platform, we will offer it to the people coming together. We kind of believe that we all have to work together to build a very strong GCC ecosystem, and that's the attempt we are looking to make. So that's pretty much what GCC Express is all about, and I'll be reaching out to many of you to help build the partnership that is required to address the need out there. Okay. Now, GCCs have evolved quite a lot over the years, and I was part of the initial team setting up Goldman Sachs more than 19 years back, and I think Shakti sir is here, and he was involved from 87 building it. So GCCs over the years have evolved quite a bit. I think the very purpose of the GCCs also have changed over time. So we have a very selected panel for panel 2 that we are inviting, and these are all leaders who have actually currently leading new GCC setups. So it's a very interesting kind of a panel we are looking to bring together. So I would like to invite the panel out here. Firstly, I would like to invite Swarupa Gorantla. Swarupa, if you could come over. Swarupa co-founded People 360D 18 years back as a specialized leadership hiring firm. She's seen as a talent catalyst, and many in the industry call her that. And she has partnered and enabled the setup of multiple GCCs across especially in Hyderabad, that include Providence, Mass Mutual, Sandoz, Netflix, Apple, Pepsi, Gap, Hotstar. You've not left anything, Swarupa. So fortunate to have her here. So welcome, Swarupa. And Swarupa will also be the moderator for this panel. So welcome. I would now like to invite Chandra Vijala. Chandra. So Chandra is a veteran GCC builder. He was part of starting up GE and John Deere. Now he's building the American Express, the India GCC, as their India president. He's a very strong voice for diversity in the workforce and has been awarded for helping grow and nurture women engineers. So that's really nice, Chandra. 23 plus years in the GCC journey, mostly in Bangalore and new to Hyderabad. So welcome to Hyderabad again. So let's welcome Chandra. I would now like to welcome Rajesh Balaraju. So Rajesh is a serial GCC builder too. So he was part of the leadership team starting up Bank of America and also UBS in Hyderabad. He's now leading the GCC setup for the London Stock Exchange as their Chief Operating Officer for the India GCC. He's seen various GCC operating models and as they have evolved, and we would love to hear more about that from you, Rajesh. So welcome, Rajesh. Okay. I would like to now welcome Sandeep Patnaik. Sandeep is a young veteran in the real estate space. He became the youngest MD of JLL at the age of 33 and continues to be their MD. He's also on board of JLL India. He's very active in the Thai and Hyderabad Angels network. He's known as the networking king. He may be knowing half the room here. So many of us know him very well. So Sandeep, welcome. Okay. So I would also like to now welcome Dr. Vipul Singh. So good to have you here. Dr. Vipul is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Lloyds Bank Group's Technology Center, bringing over 25 years of HR leadership across technology consulting and outsourcing in both GCC and non-GCC companies. He has held senior roles in Vodafone, Tata Group, Accenture, ADP, and now the Lloyds Banking Group. At Lloyds, he has led the firm's growth from inception to more than 3,000 high-end technology professionals within just 18 months, and also growing it to about 4.9 lakh square feet space, while significantly strengthening the brand's presence in India. A PhD in HR and a passionate advocate for agile leadership and talent development, Dr. Singh also Dr. Singh also champions the use of robotics and technology to enhance HR service delivery. He is on board the NHRD and an advisory councils of leading institutions such as BeamTech. And he's a very active contributor of content also in the HR space. So welcome, Dr. Vipul. Swarupa, over to you.
Thank you, Vijay. Good evening, everyone. I think a lot of learning and lot of covering has happened already, and I am going to be repeating quite a bit, so kindly be patient. While I promise that you have a very, very exciting panel, a panel which is very actively operating, running, scaling, bringing in the GCCs from across the globe to our city. So I'd like to just add one small correction to Vijay's introduction about Chandra. He's with American Airlines. I think Vijay by mistake called it American Express. So yeah. Also, I'd like to keep this session interactive and short. I do not want to hold most of you between getting back home and getting a quick dinner before we wind up. Also, some of our panelists have a time press, so I'd like to be respectful of that. I hope that's okay, Vijay. Sure. As I started off saying, a lot has been said, heard, and explained. I will start off asking all my panelists to share their point of view in the way a GCC is being perceived today as 20 years back or 27 years back, as we heard. Is it only cost, or is there more value that we are looking at today? Maybe I'll start off with Dr. Vipul.
Thank you, Swarupa. And first of all, I'm sitting opposite my ex-boss, Shakti. Never easy to speak after Shakti. Thank you, Shakti, for staying over. Means a lot. This is a question which has been beaten to death for a very, very long time, to be very honest. What is the need? But I actually work for a company now which actually came into the market twice in 2004, 2007, went back after growing into 1,500 people. So my first fear was that, first let's get to 1,500 people so that they don't go back and I don't lose my job. So I started from there. We are about 3,000 odd people, but clearly a couple of things which have actually got not only us, but a lot of other GCCs to set up presence over here is fun. First is clearly the talent supply chain that exists in this market. If you look at the entire, and I'll just give you some stats, in the whole of United Kingdom, you have 12,000 engineers who pass out with all streams of engineering in 1 year. In this city, in this state, we have 120,000 people who pass out of computer science. So first is the talent ecosystem, which is clearly going to determine the manner in which a customer will be impacted by the level of technology. So that's one big piece which is there. Second one, of course, whether we like it or not, cost is a play, and cost will continue to be a play. But most of us in this room will say, will not agree to this. But there is definitely a huge arbitrage that is existing from a money standpoint that I clearly see. And I also feel that the manner in which the global organizations have seen Indian leadership is, there are a bunch of people who think that, why don't we get a leader who has a very, very cross-cultural, a very, very deep understanding of what they do, and also a very, very global mindset to impact not just one geography, but multiple geographies. So, those are a couple of things which, which pretty much, which exist, and that's why people want to be here. People see it, people also feel that, actually there's a very interesting thing in 2008, 2009, a lot of GCCs actually shut shop and went away to a point where, people have again started to come back. So this is I see this as a different wave. A lot of people don't know about it. But I've seen that 15, 18 odd years back happening. And that at that point of time, it was just the money because companies were selling out. third-party players were buying them off, giving them forward earnings, etc. And then, it was purely. But now, the ecosystem has changed a little bit. So that's my view on why GCCs are becoming more and more relevant, and of course, very, very important in the large ecosystem of large organizations.
Thank you, Vipul. Rajesh, would you like to add your point of view too?
Very much. Thank you, Sarupa. Definitely like to add on to what Vipul said. Talent will always be the foremost, both on the technology side, and I would like to comment on the operation side as well, where India GCCs have demonstrated that there is, domain can be picked up, they can be subject matter experts here, people who are able to actually not only the master the processes and the domain, but are also able to take it forward. Also like to allude on to the story of 2008-9, where you saw some of the GCs going back, and I would like to allude to one of them, UBS, which actually sold their operations to Cognizant. And when they really wanted to come back, the question was, would you have the talent for a knowledge-based, judgmental-oriented processes? We demonstrated that we were able to build it up almost within a span of 3 months, getting onto a scale of 100 to demonstrate, and then that 100 led to almost about 3,000 people, and of course we see the announcement of UBS adding another 5,000 people in Hyderabad. So talent is absolutely the key, and of course the second point I was trying to make in the same breath was in terms of the scalability, that we are able to do a lot of good work, not in terms of the niche areas, but also covering a lot of different areas of banking. Third aspect is basically the global delivery leadership. When I talk about leadership, I'm not just talking about leaders who have teams across the globe. That is definitely there. That is, I think, one trend that we are seeing over the last 5 to 7 years, but also in terms of taking ownership, which means being application owners. I think as of now, I think we are almost about 32% of the roles that are coming into either into product development or into core application development, having the ownership out here. So those are the key factors.
Thank you, Rajesh. Sandeep, my next question is for you, and I hope this brings the 𝐏𝐸 element. Many a times we ask the business leaders, the HR leaders, the legal leaders, what is really attracting so many multinationals, so many big organizations to look at India? From the real estate perspective, ladies and gentlemen, just to bring back your attention, Sandeep is a senior managing partner of one of the leading real estate firms in India. It will be wonderful to know, why is India an attractive bet for these companies?
Thanks, Sarupa, and first of all, Sundari and Srini, congratulations for starting 2 new products. I have huge admiration for Sundari and Srini for what they have done, and homegrown company, and I know their valuation. I will not tell you now, they're dear friends, but thank you for inviting me, and I'm wishing you all the success, Sundari and Srini. Let me give you a perspective about this question. What brings them? While I am from real estate, while a lot of people will tell that the cost of real estate is the one of the important factor, it is there, but I think it is 4th or 5th in the packing order. Talent. I think Vipul is from the talent background. I think what the GCCs are coming is for talent. But I'll give you a perspective. One of my close friend, I'll not name him, he's the GCC India head based out of Hyderabad. Right, and that company started around, that GCC started in Hyderabad around 1.5 years. I'm surprised to tell you that that gentleman had to go to US to convince his bosses out there of what sort of quality work GCC do in India, and it is much beyond, much beyond just a cost advantage, or much beyond a very mundane job. So it is happening in 2024 and 25 that Indian GCC leaders have to sell the capabilities of Indian talent to their bosses in US, and that is fact. This happened 1.5 years back. So it is pure talent, point number 1, while people come there. And I agree with what Chris sir told. Initially, it might look as a cost advantage, but once they start, they realize that India has to offer much beyond cost advantage. Whether it is the number of graduates who are coming out, the cutting on technology, it is all, right? It's the cost, the talent, the real estate, all put together. And I think this is the reason why most of the companies, and I'll give you some statistics from a real estate perspective. Last year, 75 million square feet of office space was leased in Jan to December 2024. You will be surprised to know close to almost 30% of that was done by GCC, right? Almost 28 million square feet was leased in India because of GCC. This shows the power of GCC and the faith of leaders in US to start their GCCs in India. Yeah.
I'll add a small extension to this question, and maybe Chandra, you can guide us all. Why are the companies like yours, which are fairly niche, see, we've seen a lot of banks, a lot of financial organizations, retailers come into India very early on. But aerospace is, still very young, and of course, we've had Gs of the world and, other names like that. But why are they looking at India, and what are you doing differently than just doing services of any regular form?
Yeah, so pretty well. So when we look at today the way our teams are structured, right? When we think product, we always talk in terms of quads, right? Squads of your product leadership, technical leadership, design leadership, and agile leadership. Now, along with that, I think, and data, of course. The fifth thing that comes in is now AI. What you'll see from talent perspective is everybody starting to build those muscle and that thought process in terms of actually putting that into effect and into impact in every single product that they're working on, versus that being a separate set of people doing that activity. That's probably something that you'll start to see evolving very, very clearly, because you'll start to, because of the way agentic is working right now and how it is starting to become micro, I think you'll start to see a lot more of that in each of those products that we are developing, versus keeping it larger and at a bigger ecosystem from overall organization perspective. So from talent perspective, you'll start to see that proliferating across the board is at least my thought process at this point of time.
Sandeep, how have GCC spaces need and demand for real estate workspaces changed, evolved? COVID happened, we all took our laptops and ran home. Hybrid work is here to stay. How has it really changed, and in your 2 decades of experience, what changes have you seen and what will survive?
This question, what will survive? I think no one has the answer. Let me give you some statistics to prove that. During COVID, and I think the favorite question we were taught during interviews in college or our B school days is, how are you going to answer, where do you see yourself after 5 years, 10 years? Now I find it very funny, right? We don't know what is going to happen in next 2-3 years because of the geopolitics, because the world is so dynamic. During COVID, it was announced that commercial real estate is dead. No one is going to come back to office. And one of India's richest commercial real estate developer, one of the top team, called me saying that we are very nervous. Millions and millions and millions of square feet is owned by them. We are very nervous. And this space, commercial real estate is dead. I'm talking of 21, 22, 23. Now see what has happened. From being announced completely dead, last year, 2024, Jan to December, India saw the maximum office leasing ever recorded in India, 75 million square feet. From being saying this office space dead in 22-23 to highest. And what we see, 2025 is going to be more than 75 million square feet. So how things are evolving, no one knows, right? We cannot predict. Now there is a talk that AI is going to disrupt, AI is going to kill jobs, hence it is going to impact the commercial real estate. Frankly speaking, we really don't know, right? Normal logic will say yes, a lot of jobs will be lost, hence the need of office space is going to come down. But the way I look at it is that the AI is going to kill those jobs who are not ready for AI. But AI is going to create many more jobs who are ready for that. And I am a firm believer that the way India is the only office market in the entire world which is growing leaps and bounds. Let me give you a very interesting example. Blackstone, which is at one point of time was the world's biggest owner of office space. Over last 10 years, from a 25 to 30% of their asset under office space, they've come down to 2 to 3% globally, except India. The only place Blackstone is investing in buying office space and across the world is India, because they have faith of the country India and the jobs it's going to create and all. So I'm bullish. I've been always an eternal optimistic that AI is not going to kill the commercial real estate. The only thing is that, yes, the hybrid culture is there to stay, right? And the hub and spoke model is there to stay. From this is, I think, the new thing which COVID has taught all of us. Except that I think I'm very, very bullish. Not that I work for real estate consulting company, I'm saying that, but I'm very bullish that India will be one of the very few countries where real estate will grow leaps and bounds in spite of the AI impact.
Sandeep, looks like you are reaffirming and giving a lot of guarantees this evening to a nation that's fully bullish on gold in real estate. So guys, please take a note of that. Vipul, you guys are amongst the few GCCs that have scaled at a very, very fast pace in the last 2 or 3 years. Would you be able to share your experience with the rush, with the adrenaline that you experienced in this process?
If anybody wants to scale up Swarupa, they need to hire Vipul Singh.
And Swarupa can back the whole process.
Jokes apart, I think, I've been lucky that that I joined an organization where I was employee number 2, and clearly there are a few things which, like I mentioned to you, that this bank came in twice before and we actually went away. We went back, which is very, very unfortunate. But a few things that really work for, which I think work for us, and when I was asked, and I was joining a different company. And then I met these people. I actually met them in January before. In January of 2023, they came along with NASSCOM, looking for an organization. I met them, and clearly they were thinking about whether they should set up something like this. And we remained in touch. And then I was almost joining another company, and then about a week or 2 weeks before that, somebody just called me saying that, we are looking at this thing because they made an offer to somebody and that person declined. And they asked me, what is it that will take us to grow at this pace? Because, the worry that this organization had was, if it doesn't scale up at that pace, we might again go back. So we have a very, very visionary leader who was the CEO of the company who felt very, very strongly about it. So that leadership commitment really, really needs to be, we need leadership sponsorship is what I would call first. I've got my friend here, but we need to actually be in the right infrastructure, because though people don't like to come to office every day, but when they come to the office, you need to be in the right space. So that's something that, I told them that, we need to be in the right space, and I think we got into the right space. Clearly, our system, processes, and people programs need to be really cutting edge, because now everybody is doing everything. And with COVID coming in, a lot of things have to be rewritten. So we thought that, why don't we do something? So that's something which is very important, and I think we did a very, very good job. We needed to get the right leadership, and I said that, if you're able to get the first 20, 25 people who are really big hitters in the room, then they will actually act as catalysts to go and get the next 250 people, and I think that really, really worked for us. It also has it has the next impact in terms of, how are they able to go and tell the employee value proposition to the rest of the candidates that are in the market. So I think that's another thing that organizations really have to do. There is also a big piece that, a lot of organizations, I think, and I don't want to name the organization, but in India, in Hyderabad, we had one organization which actually, parachuted 9 out of the 10 colleagues from a US-based company to start up a GCC in India. And they got to about 400, 500 people in about 2 odd years. They actually pretty much had to change the entire leadership team because, you really need to understand the cultural nuance of what it takes to set up an organization in India. So I think that is very, very important. However, it has to have a very, very close connection to the mothership. And I think that's something which a lot of organizations, you don't want to create. In India, we like creating our own islands. And of course, I've tried to do that sometimes, but so you have to have a very straight connection, a very direct linkage to the mothership. And also, I think we don't need to do anything different, this is part of a large ecosystem, so you don't have to create anything different. Just need to differentiate that a little bit to actually make this work. So these are some of the things that, this does not just apply to Lloyd's Banking Group. I know Shakti did it when, he started this off way back in 2001, I think, if I'm right, Shakti. 2001, yeah, 2001. So, as long as these companies are able to do that, by the way, these are very easy to talk about. But some of these are very, very important pieces that, a lot of people miss out. If people do this, then, most of the things get right. And I think organizations will grow. But yeah, I'm glad that you called out that, we are among the fastest growing. Actually, I call myself the fastest growing.
Wonderful. Rajesh, you scaled a brand that's popular, yet not very popular in the, local context. How has your experience been? What's your takeaway, learning, advice?
Absolutely. I think, yes, it's, when we talk about 𝐿SEG, we really have to, unless we really expand that it is a London Stock Exchange, people it doesn't really register. It's also about education, saying that, the G is probably bigger than the LSE because it's not just a London Stock Exchange. It's a huge amount of vertical integration. We took over the London Clearing House many years back. Thomson Reuters became Refinitiv. It is a huge, we are probably a bigger data company than a stock exchange. So the idea was to really position, and of course, I wouldn't want to comment whether it's the right model or incorrect, but basically, we also went with the co-branded because we wanted to start off very quickly in terms of, co-branding with TCS, in terms of starting off, in terms of the build, operating, transfer model. So it became extremely important, not just in terms of the conventional means, like, in terms of branding on social media or, reaching out on digital platforms. But I think the key thing was to initially build up the leadership. I think that is where it actually starts. Build your leadership team, build your experts across. I think that's going to lay the foundation. In terms of branding, they will actually go ahead and build the teams for you. And extremely important was in terms of to have that vision. While yes, when you decide to open a center, you have a particular vision to say that, it is a technology center of excellence, and of course, Hyderabad having cloud engineering specialty, we're going to be focusing around that. But the idea is, for that vision to percolate across teams. When I'm talking about, it's not just about the CEO, the CIO, having across it the divisional heads and the teams below that to really understand what they're doing. It cannot be fragmented work. It has to be work that is absolutely meaningful, and that is exactly what will draw the talent inside the teams. And of course, I wanted to comment, the most important is the culture. Basically, when we talk about, the culture to really engage people, enable people, and energize people, and that itself, for example, it may take you a couple of months to really get the word across, but I think people actually go ahead and bring the brand for you.
Sure. We often compare growth with Bangalore. That seems our favorite city to compete with. Chandra, you've moved from Bangalore to be in Hyderabad and set up your organization. How and why would you, think that all the support that you got from this ecosystem locally here has made it fun, exciting, and what would you offer to the newer ones coming?
There are multiple things, of course. I mean, as you just come into this space, right? I'll tell you, in the last, we've been only about 9 months in this ecosystem now, right? And in the last 6 months, I've had multiple leaders visiting us from US. And every time they're here in this part of the city, and they look around, I take them to any of the closer restaurants and stuff, right? Everybody says the same thing. I mean, the infrastructure and how it looks and how it feels is just phenomenal, right, in this space. I think that's something that hits at the top of your mind for sure.
The skyline's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that, right? And it just, I mean, this is something that none of them actually expect as they were kind of coming into Hyderabad. That's one of the things. And see, there are multiple other things which I think, Mr. Krish and many others spoke about, from how, and I know Shakti sir also spoke about how this is not just about Hyderabad, Bangalore, or it's so much more about India. But one other thing that I'll quickly add, which I probably loved the most and I thought was a great thing going for Hyderabad. I'll probably point out our friend Mr. Manohar Reddy sir here, who they are the kind of people who have been advocating for Hyderabad, saying, you know, unconditionally I'll provide you whatever support you want to make sure that you're successful in this ecosystem. And that means a lot in my opinion. Those are the kind of things that truly take you beyond just coming into a ecosystem and trying to figure your way through, right? You start to provide the right channels, you start to provide the right ways to accelerate your journey. I think that to me has been the biggest difference, if I can say so.
Sure. I'd like to open out for a quick round of questions that, yes, I see one hand up there already. Do we have somebody who can, so instead of me asking questions, I was hoping that our patient, wonderful audience could ask a few questions. Vijay, Sundari, if you guys have any specific questions, since you guys are starting out, I think it'll be really nice to cover them now.
Okay, I'll start with the first question. So since there is a lot of people from the stakeholders from the ecosystem, is there anything the ecosystem can do to help newer GCCs coming into India?
It's like the person who has set the exam paper is asking the question, so not allowed.
Definitely, I'd like to answer that from an ecosystem standpoint, is in terms of developing talent. A little earlier in the discussion, we were talking about the academia not really being in tune with the business needs. So the idea is, for example, we have a lot of engineers who come in, probably studying 50 subjects over a span of 4 years. But obviously when they come in, we generally ask them to unlearn stuff. We get on to training them on this very specific skills that we actually want. They're getting into the banking or the financial sector. They could get into healthcare as well. But for example, if I were to ask them, what's a derivative or a swap or an option, they will blink. So the idea is to really get on to students who are catching them young in the 2nd semester, 4th semester, 6th semester, to put through a program which covers domain, which covers the technology skills that you want. Maybe as you get on to, closer to the final year, you train them on the skills that we want. For example, if we want skills pertaining to saying that I want a Python with Microsoft Azure or Snowflake, that is exactly the sort of training that should be provided, the process training that we provide, to be provided well in advance. And then, of course, the behavioral element in terms of getting in the competencies, assertiveness, negotiation skills. The idea is, to really speak up. If we were to be adding that on, what happens is the campus grads will not be campus grads at all. They will be actually as good as lateral hires. I think that is something that, for example, we should be doing for the ecosystem in terms of enabling talent which is ready for the industry.
Good evening. Needless to say, this panel and the panel earlier comprises some really well-acknowledged domain masters. So my question or observation is to the earlier panel. I was expecting a Q&A. On a very jovial note, I'll quickly wrap it up in less than a minute. On a very jovial note, Mr. 𝐾𝐲𝐿 spoke about work-life balance when Mr. Narayanmurthy advocated a 70-hour work week. So I think for the first time, the management may be at loggerheads. This is just a very jovial observation. Sir, you spoke about, earlier speaker spoke about the disconnect between the academia and industry. There is no gainsaying the fact that industry moves at an exponential pace, whereas academic institutions like we move at an arithmetic progression. So there is bound to be a lot of gap between what the industry expects and what the colleges are able to deliver. I think the solution lies in a very deep industry-academia partnership, because we have all the models and frameworks are available in India now. We have the National Education Policy 2020. We have the Sector Skill Council of NASCO. So what we need is a tighter collaboration between the academia and industry. If some of you can share some of your collaborations with the academia, I think that'll answer my
Would definitely like to comment on that. We have something called the BFSI Consortium, which actually comprises of leadership in the banking and financial services sector. I mean, we have folks from JP Morgan, State Street, HSBC, London Stock Exchange, Bank of America. And of course, the idea is to take these chapters across to both, as of now, the chapter is set up for Hyderabad, going to expand that, going across to Karnataka and to Tamil Nadu. What it does is basically we've engaged the government of Telangana, the higher education department, and of course the IT department to actually work with, like I said, developing this minor degree in engineering, a minor degree in, in the graduate programs, wherein, what I talked about earlier, to cover almost like a 24 credits to recognize it like a minor degree in engineering. So as of now, we made a start with about 20 engineering colleges and 20 non-engineering colleges in Hyderabad, and of course we have an MOU with the government of Karnataka as well to develop something very, very similar. So what is going, in addition to that, we are also come up with something called the accelerator program, which means people who are going to be passing out now to say that, dedicate 4 months, to really work on a 375-hour program. And in addition to the, as they complete it, this will not be because we don't hire people for banking, we hire people for very, very specific processes. We hire people for reconciliation, we hire people for settlements, or people hire for anti-money laundering. So the idea is to really work on those trainings and do more a supply and demand. To say that I would want to recruit 100 people in terms of anti-money laundering operations, we will train them on 100, getting 100 people ready. Likewise, in terms of very specific technology. So it's a start that has already been made. Of course, we would like to engage a lot of, practically every single GCCs, not just the GCCs, but also the service companies, the consulting companies, to make it completely well-rounded, to ensure that, if you want 10,000 people, you'll get 10,000 people, engineers or graduates who are actually trained and who are as good as, a specialist.
I just want to add a little bit on that, Swarupa.
Sure, absolutely.
So I think some great points, but if you really look at it, industry-academia collaboration is a conversation that we are having, not for a couple of years, but for a couple of decades is where, when I started off, that's when, we started. So on one side of, the industry keeps talking about non-relevant skills that are being taught in educational institutions, and, we have to spend a lot of money in terms of getting people ready. And there's a campus to corridor which became a big business for a period of time, etc. But the flip side of the story is also that the corporations have not done enough too. So let's face it, because I sit on the other side of the table. The real investment which is required, organizations actually sometimes also become a little selfish in terms of what they want. And I think the real investment that is required is at the grassroots level, which is actually missing in this country. And actually, I'm on the governing board of a couple of Ivy League schools in this country, like the BITS, etc. What is really missing is that what is it that you do in primary, secondary education to actually build basic skills, so that, which is just not which is just not academic, but overall in terms of a horizontal learning standpoint to actually get you to a particular point. The Indian education system, at the end of the day, with our CBSE, ICSE, and of course the state boards, pretty much get you very, very watertight from an education standpoint. And that's what education institutions are churning out. We are only trying to polish them up so that, our jobs become a little easier. So we actually I appreciate where you're coming from, because we have invested, we've given some huge grants to IIT Madras, to Mahindra University, to IIIT, to IISc. We are setting up a chair in another school to actually talk about some of the things that London Stock Exchange is thinking of doing. But, at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. And though I always feel that, education institutions can do more, but I also feel that, there's so much more that can be done. And I want to call out the example of another organization, because Shakti is over here. When we started looking at what we can do from an education standpoint, we said that we will actually look at primary school, because that's where the real grounding will be built. And of course, as I speak to you all now, there are not a couple of hundreds of them have actually gone on to become engineers, where people did not even have enough money to go into a school. The percentage of girls getting into a school, we talk about diversity, but the percentage of girls dropping out once the moment they reach puberty because of lack of toilets and water, running water in the schools, was humongously high. So, some of those things is where corporations can make a huge impact, which will have a long-term impact within the organizations. So, you know, just not from a curriculum, but also from a diversity, inclusion standpoint, are some of the things that, you know, we can do also as organizations.
There was one more, yeah, please.
Well, this is Kalyan this side. In spite of all these challenges we coming across, we still find a gap between the educational institutions and the corporate world. I would specifically want to talk about the internships, which is basically students are struggling to get internships into the corporate world, trying to get there. Two things. One is about the knowledge, the skills, and the other one is the cultural shock from the education sector to the employability. Once they get into this transformation, right, they are not able to adapt to the work culture. So I just want to talk about, because somebody can give me a clarity on that, it would be great.
Rajesh, would you?
Absolutely. A little bit of an extension to what I said. Maybe I did not cover the last element to it. When we talk about the 375-hour program, it is not just about, first of all, it's not a theoretical program. It's rooted in practical scenarios. It is in terms of how does one open an account, how does one do reconciliation, or how does do a credit rating. As we do that, when we talk about the project, it's almost about towards the end of the program to offer compulsory internship. So that and in the internship will be in the areas where they've been already identified for a particular role. And then what happens is the evolution on to continuing on to being a full-fledged employee is the option is made available to them. So because obviously when we look at our attrition, right, huge, when we talk about the numbers that you're seeing, 1.9 million folks, if you were to look at an industry attrition, maybe about 9 to 11% as far as the technology sector is concerned, maybe closer to 12 to 15% for operations. So you can look at the churn, and we're just about scratching the surface. If you were to be having people who are have these elements of behavior. I'm going to talk about behavior, not just in terms of the normal competencies, but how to really navigate the corporate world. And of course, with the internship, where they're able to practice what they've actually learned, will actually, when they get onto, say a day one as an employee, they're not a day one employee, they're somebody who has almost like a, 4 to 5 months of focused experience. For example, when we recruit somebody in our systems, for example, after 4 months, after they complete their knowledge transfer and all, the difference between them and a 2-year employee is hardly anything. So we would expect employees to get onto this level, when they come in even as freshers.
I just wanted to add.
Sure.
It is, I think if you see, hardly 5 to 10% of Indian corporates have very structured internship, right? So while the students, whether it is the students of MBA or whatever students, they are very keen to do internship. But let me tell you, only 5 to 10% of the corporates have very structured program. And I have seen that across the companies I have worked. So the interns comes for 2 months, 1 month. No one is interested in training them because the managers know that they are going to leave in 2 months. So the way there is a structured program for the executive trainees or the management trainees program, there is no structured program in any Indian corporates. Most of them, I'd say, at least 90% don't have. I think thanks to this government of India, it has started a program where they want to take, I think, more than 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs internship across different companies, which is started by government of India as a good initiative. Until and unless corporates take it very seriously, that this is a, let's say this is the responsibility of the corporate to train the youngsters, and obviously they are not, until unless they see that they are not going to get anything out of that. It's a social responsibility towards the society. This model of internship is not going to succeed. Why corporates spend money and teach so seriously, train the management trainees? Because they know that after the management training program, this person is going to continue. So there is return on investment. The moment you think of return on investment or internship, it does not work out for the corporates. It's high time that most of the corporates should start internship as a social responsibility than the return on investment.
Thank you. And just not about this, also want to go ahead and talk about not just focusing on the tier 1 institutions, we also need to penetrate to the level 2, level 3 also, because I personally believe there are a lot of hidden talent in tier 2 and tier 3 institutions.
Completely agree. The focus should be more on, tier 3, tier 2 sort of institutions rather than the top one. They are the ones who will actually stay on to the company at least in the medium term. Otherwise, it's basically just going to be a 1 year, 2 year tenure, especially if you were to be just looking at the tier 1 institutions.
Thank you.
Do we have, yes, I see. I could take one more question after this. Vijay, are we, yeah? So one more after this end.
Sorry, I'm also continuing on the same topic about, my name is 𝐁𝐮𝐬𝐢𝐧𝐠, and I come from UK. I have a company based out of UK, registered in the UK, and we are trying to, start here our company operations. And only thing is that I think the responsibility is always coming to what can industry do, because the businesses are to make money. I think it's the education institutes which should come forward and try to do something to come forward to find programs so that their students are ready. Unfortunately, the education system is such that it doesn't make you an entrepreneur or ready for a job. So that's why that gap is. I think, I don't know who is from education institutes here. I think we should start to maybe do something from our side. And I'll give you an example in the University of Cambridge, where I am a module leader for healthcare economics. The teachers there are all selected from industries, no PowerPoint. Directly they are asked to come and talk to students. And it's a very technical subject, but even then, the exposure the students get is that in 1 year's time, they are ready to take a job. And I think that's where it's lagging. And I think India is, of course, moving towards that. But I would definitely encourage educational institute to maybe adapt themselves to be ready, and not only asking the businesses to do more and more, because businesses are to make more money. Of course, you get the talents also, but it's a lot of work. So I just wanted to comment. I don't know if you have any repose to this or any response.
Yes, I would like to comment on that. Yes, when we look at educational institutions, let me take an example of, say, 𝐼𝐴 College of Engineering in Bangalore, or for example, 𝐁𝐵 University. They do focus on a lot of these developments in terms of making them ready for the corporate world or providing them skills. But not every colleges do that, right? When you look at, a lot of government colleges or the tier 2, tier 3 colleges, that's where it becomes incumbent on the corporations and the corporate sector to extend that arm. Because you have the expertise, you know what are the sort of hiring that you will actually do, and the idea is to reach out to the management of those institutions, to the placement officers, engaging the students, going that extra mile to really help them out. But yes, colleges which are progressive or deemed to be tier 1, they are already doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It's been a wonderful evening. Lots of repeated topics, but definitely various and different perspectives from everyone here. Vijay, would you like to? Okay, great. I think we can all call it an evening and enjoy some dinner. Thank you so much.